These days, we are anticipating the arrival of world leaders and guests that were invited by Russia to not only just take part in the protocol events dedicated to Victory Day celebrations, but also to celebrate it together with our people and to experience all these emotions that are linked to the victory and the end of a bloody and monstrous violence that ended 80 years ago. We wouldn't like the history to be forgotten, to be rewritten, so that the succeeding generations, children that will be born without having a direct contact with war veterans, World War II veterans, and they wouldn't have an opportunity to ask their grandparents and great-grandparents to know how it happened. It is important for future generations to know the history and what previous generations did, so that they could receive first-hand information from World War II veterans, to preserve this information and to use it in educational processes, in textbooks, in scientific texts, in films, to make it a part of our coexistence. That is our objective of our country. That's why we are waiting for the arrival of world leaders so that we could share with them this special, happy emotion related with this celebrations. There is no family in our country that didn't know about great patriotic war directly from their relatives. In my personal case, two of my grandparents, father of my mother and father of my father, went through the war entirely. Two of my grandmothers worked in the rear, and they worked for the victory. One grandmother worked at a plant that manufactured shells and military equipment, and another grandmother was a student, and in the evenings and at nights she also worked at a military factory, and she worked for the victory too. That's the history of my family, but each family has its own story. That's why I want the Chinese audience to hear it and understand it. It is not just an important political event, it's not just an important protocol event, it's a common celebration and holiday for us, and our hearts are filled with these celebrations, so that at every level we could experience it with all those countries, because leaders do not only represent state authorities, but they represent peoples of their countries, so that together we could experience what is sacred to us. It is really important for you to understand it, because I really want that your million audience would understand it too. And we're looking forward to the visit of the central main guest, world guest of all events. I'm talking about President Xi. Why are we looking forward to his visit? It is because, among other things, of the fact that Russia and China bear a special responsibility in global affairs, which is related to the events. You know, everything gathered at one point. It's not just an anniversary of victory. It is also how the world could be, but we're happy that the world is not the way it is right now. If, for example, Nazis or the Japanese militarists won in that war, we have achieved war based on the contribution of people who fought and worked as a single front against Nazis, Japanese militaries. Thanks to their contribution, A new architecture of international affairs emerged 80 years ago. 80 years ago, the United Nations was established. Its central body, the UN Security Council, should prevent the Third World War. Russia and China are permanent members of the UN Security Council, which means that they bear the special responsibility and they play a special role in maintaining peace and stability. You as permanent members, as members of the UN Security Council, do you remember why this organization was established? Do you as members of the UN Security Council, do you remember what price was paid by your own ancestors to achieve world without war? Can the world still stay on the principles which were used in the establishment of the United Nations after the end of the Second World War, or another world order will be established without taking into account mistakes of the Second World War? Russia and China have a common position on that matter, that world order should be based on international law, that it should be based on mutual respect, taking into consideration the interests of one another, maintaining security and safety. All of that is reflected in the UN Charter. But unfortunately, some countries of the Western world believe that the new world order shouldn't be based on international law, but it should be based on some kind of rules that they are going to develop on their own. What are these rights about? It's might is right, the right to dominate others without having any right for that, to be honest. That's the main sense and the main point behind the high-level contacts that are going to take place in the next days. It's the conjuncture of the past, the present, and the future.